Hello there. This week we're going to finish with the topic of key. We are going to deal with the topic of termination. First of all, let's revise what we have seen so far.
Kate, let me ask you this. We
What's
are coming
happening
up
to
on
me
the
now?
20th anniversary of Titanic.
Yes.
It's being re-released in December. Have you seen it in the movie theater recently?
No, obviously not.
I don't know. All right.
Of course not.
So we can see here that a segment presented with high key has contrastive implications. Secondly, it is assumed that the member she does not select is the expected one. In this case, probably the interviewer was expecting her to say something such as, "By all means, I have seen it," right? Let's see another example that exemplifies the case of particularizing. In the previous case, we said that a binary opposition is projected upon the existential paradigm, and there is a denial, an explicit denial of an alternative. The case of particularizing would be a special instance of contrasting. The example says, "Where did you find your glasses?" "They were in the fridge. Can you believe it?" So, if we think about possible alternatives, it could be the fridge, the desk, the side bed table. So, the set of existentially possible alternatives are taken as a unit and are rejected. So, it's the fridge against all the possible places where he could have found his glasses. Let's analyze an example with Midkey.
How's life? Everything good?
You know, it's so beautiful. It really is, especially when I'm absent from it.
Do you feel like you're separated from the rest of the world and what's going on?
No, not separated at all. In fact, it's the exact opposite. You know, don't get me wrong, you know, Jim Carrey is a great character, and I was lucky to get the part. But I don't think of that as me anymore.
You don't? Not at all?
Not really.
The use of Midkey has an additive meaning. The speaker gives separate pieces of information. In the previous case, when we talked about high key, we said there was the presence of an implied expectation that something would be otherwise. In the case of Midkey, that is not present. That is, there is no implied expectation that something would be one way or another. Let's see one instance of low key.
And maybe this isn't true, but you, Jim, did train with was it the Navy SEALs? Is that made up nonsense?
No, I did not train with the Navy SEALs.
A tonic segment having low key is presented as being existentially equivalent to the previous one. That is, that in this case, no means that he did not train in the Navy SEALs. So let's take one more example to state the difference between the three possible options. Think about it, stop the video, think about it, and I'll give you the answer in a minute. In the first case, by associating high key with failed, the speaker projects a context of interaction in which the existential paradigm has two members, fail or pass. Secondly, we assume that the one he or she does not select is the expected one. That is, the person who sat for the exam was expected to pass. So we shall say that a tonic segment presented has contrastive implications in this case. In the second case, Midkey in failed is heard as giving two separate pieces of information. And in this version, the context projected allows all combinations of the two selections. That is, the person could have failed or the person could have passed. There were no implied expectations. In the case of Loki, it is not only that he sat for the exam and failed, he did both in a world existentially conceived in which doing one necessarily entails doing the other. That means this person always fails. Brazel then deals with the difference between mid and high key in minimal pairs, and by that we mean cases in which there are two possibilities, that is, a polarity choice. What Brazel says is that in cases like this one, whether you choose high or mid key, the selection is still between two possibilities, right? So what would make the difference? What makes the difference is the presence of an implied expectation in the case of high and the absence of that expectation in the case of mid. Brazel provides examples with the context in which each of these alternatives are possible. In the case of mid-key, a plausible context would be to think that we always thought it could be John, and it was. And high key would be something like, what a pity it wasn't John. It was John. This is what is not that clear, but we need to think about this carefully. He says the difference between mid-key and high key would be, in the first case, assert that something was the case, that is, that it was John, and denying that it wasn't with high key, that is, denying this idea. It was John denies the fact that the speaker thought it was not John, and that is denying that it wasn't. He then deals with cases of high key with yes or no, but I think it will be clearer if we explain this section after we talk about termination. So I invite you to watch the second video, and then we will come back to the ideas that we are temporarily leaving aside.